Hi everyone, welcome. FPLMattDay here, and this is my Game Week 3 Essential FPL tips, all ready for Friday's early deadline. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button, give this video a like, and get your comments in if you have any questions or any thoughts on these tips ready for Game Week 3. Currently in Barcelona, so it's a different background today, so apologies, it's not my regular setting. But nonetheless, we're going to go through some key tips ready for this week. So let's start with the first one. And I'm going to say this is probably my top tip for the week. And it's sign Mbeumo from Brentford and Wissa if you can. So if you can sign one of the two, if you don't own either of them, then make Mbeumo your prime option. Obviously, 2 returns in 2, taking penalties, double-digit return against Fulham in Game Week 2. And then Wissa, if you can afford him as well as a striker option and you're looking to remove someone like João Pedro, then get him in as well. So Mbeumo has now price rise to 6.7 million. Wissa is at 6.1 million, might also price rise again before deadline. So for me, if you can get both, double up. I've seen a few people mention that they are looking like this season's Mahrez and Vardy early on for those that were playing FPL in that 15-16 season. Obviously, when Leicester won the league and Mahrez and Vardy were on absolute fire that season. And they're looking similar, some big returns so far for them in Brentford. And I think at the moment as well, guaranteed minutes for Wissa with Tony obviously being suspended for his betting ban. That he doesn't always get 90 minutes, but he does get at least 70 to 80 minutes in him, which is enough for him to make an impact. And Mbeumo having those pens, he's become a real strong asset as a midfielder option. Who would I swap him for? If it's Eze, I'd say no. I think hold Eze for now. But if you've got Salah, I'd take Salah out and bank the cash. I don't think Salah is showing enough for his value at this early stage, and we can wait and see. If it is just Eze is the only option you have to take him out, then yes, I'd say do it and make that sideways move. But if it's between Salah and Eze, then make sure it's Salah. Let's go to my second essential tip for Game Week 3. And this is about Chelsea assets. They are the first game. They play at home to Luton and with that early deadline on Friday night. And what I'm going to suggest is be tentative on Chelsea assets. Don't just look at the fixtures and think we need to triple up on Chelsea. They've played 2 games. They've lost 1 and drawn 1. They've conceded 5 goals across those 2 games. I know they look good in each half, 1 against Liverpool and 1 against West Ham. A bit of bad luck as well, red cards. West Ham got the red card against him, but a bit of bad luck with the missed penalty from Enzo. But sometimes when results don't go your way early on, it's those small, fine margins that matter. So be tentative on their players. In my opinion, if you've got Chilwell, pay him and keep him. If there's any other defenders, say you can't get to Chilwell, you can't afford him, then look at Gusto at 4 million, who's likely going to replace Reece James. He played in Game Week 2. And also Colwill or Diassi are other options as well. But you'd probably swing towards Colwill at 4.5 million and Gusto at 4 million if you're targeting that Chelsea defence. So Chilwell, Gusto, Colwill for me. I wouldn't be looking elsewhere in that midfield right now. Sanchez isn't a bad option in goal at 4.5 million if you want to play the fixtures, but I'm preferring Gusto, Colwill, and definitely Chilwell. And in terms of Nicholas Jackson, I know he's a popular pick in FPL this week, but for me, not liking it so far. 2 1-pointers. He's got in some good positions, but he hasn't scored. Chelsea haven't shown enough. I know he's got those fixtures, but I think there's the likes of Wissa, Ollie Watkins, who have returned in both of their games. And you want to pick the players that are on form at the start of the season. We've seen it in previous seasons with Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Patrick Bamford, where they're on absolute fire at the start of the season. People just kept delaying picking them, but they kept scoring. And I think the same can happen with a Wissa. So I'd hold fire on Jackson for now. My next one is Arsenal assets at home to Fulham. Potential tricky fixture, but still keep Saka. We did notice that he's now lost penalties and Ødegaard has taken them, but still keep Saka. He likes home games. These are the sort of games he thrives and scores goals. So don't make that rash move to Ødegaard. Keep Saka for now. My next tip as well is Salah. Look, this is the opposite. So he looks like he might lose penalties soon because he did miss one against Bournemouth in game week 2. And he's now missed, I think that's 3 of his last 5 penalties. So it is quite a lot for him. And you've got the likes of McAllister and Szoboszlai, who are both very, very good penalty takers. The difference between him and Saka is Salah is an extra, 4 million plus. So if he's lost penalties, you're losing a lot more. So for me, Salah is the one you sell right now if you own him. We got the points from him against Bournemouth. Tough fixture against Newcastle. For his price, there's plenty of other midfielders I mentioned. So sell Mo Salah, especially if we do get the intel now that he does begin to lose penalties, because he loses a lot more value there. So my next tip is to start targeting some Manchester City assets, but which ones? Because they play Sheffield United away this week, which is a good fixture, followed by a number of other really good games after. And for me, Akanji looks like he's nailed down a place there. Ruben Diaz as well. You've got Garvidal, who may potentially play on that left side we saw in game week 2. So some really good defensive options there. So I'm liking those. And then in terms of attacking options outside of Haaland, it's Alvarez and Foden for me. So if you can get Alvarez and you're fancying a double up on that attack with him and Haaland, it's not a bad option at all. And then Foden, really good price at the moment. He's gone up to 7.6 million. Man the match against Newcastle. Get him during the streak now before Man City play in the Champions League, because he's got a higher chance of playing games through this stage. So let's go to my last tip, and this is about the wild card and whether to play it now in game week 2. And for me, do not play this wild card in game week 2 unless you're missing core players. And by core players, Haaland's one of them, but most people have him. But outside of that, the likes of Mitoma, Mbeumo, Ben Chilwell, Saliba has obviously shown his worth in these first few games. Saka as well. So, these core players that are getting the points are doing well early on in FPL. If you happen to have none of these players and you just need to completely rip up your team, then use the wild card. But if you've still got a good core of players, you can make, a -4 or 1 or 2 transfers for free that you might have to kind of get these Wisses and these Mbeuemos in there, then do that and do not waste your wild card this early on in the season, in my opinion. Look, things might change around game week 5, game week 6, but game week 2 coming into game week 3, it's just too early unless you need to rip up the whole squad. Just don't do it. So there you have it. There are my FPL essential tips going into game week 3, based on what we've seen in the first couple of game weeks so far. If you have any questions, get them in the comments. I can answer them all the way up until this week's early deadline, which is, don't forget, on Friday night. I'm FPLMattDay. If you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, like this video, and stay tuned for plenty more uploads prior to deadline this week. I'll be doing my team selection and I'll have my weekly live podcast as well. So be sure to get involved in that one. I'll leave you for now. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.